All right, today we are diving into something huge. We're looking at a theory that weaves a single golden thread through 2,500 years of philosophy and physics, all to paint a completely new picture of reality itself. It's a big one, for sure, so let's just jump right in.
So let me just start with this question. I want you to think about this for a second. What if the very first moment of our universe, that cataclysmic explosion that kicked everything off, what if it couldn't have happened in an empty theater? What if, for the show to even start, there had to be someone or something watching? This is the wild idea at the very heart of everything we're exploring today.
Now, you might be thinking this sounds like it came out of nowhere, right? But this radical idea, well, it didn't just pop into existence. It's actually the endpoint of a massive 2,500-year-old journey of an idea, a single, powerful concept that's been evolving for millennia, connecting some of the greatest minds in history. So it all starts way back in ancient Greece with a guy named Parmenides. He laid down a super simple but unbreakable rule of logic. Non-being cannot be. Basically, something that doesn't exist can't exist. Makes sense, right? Then you fast forward 2.5 millennia and you get the brilliant physicist John Wheeler. He comes up with it from bit, this idea that all the physical stuff in the universe, the it, actually comes from information, the bit. And now this new synthesis ties it all together, completing the loop. It from bit, from witness. It suggests that information, the bit, only becomes real, physical, it, when it's observed, when it's witnessed. That's not just an extra word tacked on at the end. No, it's the final piece that closes a philosophical puzzle we've been working on for ages.
Okay, so what does this actually mean for how we think about the universe? Well, we're not just talking about a minor tweak here. This model completely flips the entire script on cosmology. It literally inverts our starting point for how everything began.
And this slide just lays it out perfectly. On the left, you've got the way we usually think about it. It starts with this giant, unexplained event, the Big Bang. And from there, we just ask, okay, so what happens next? But the new model, on the right, it starts with pure logic, Parmenides' rule that nothing can't exist. And it asks a much, much deeper question. Given this simple rule of logic, what kind of universe has to emerge? See the difference? It means you don't need that mysterious, unexplained push to get things started. And to really get a handle on just how big of a shift this is, the source material gives us this absolutely brilliant analogy. It's just like when we switched from thinking the Earth was the center of everything to realizing everything orbits the sun. We're not just shuffling the same old pieces of the puzzle around. We are fundamentally changing what the entire universe revolves around. And that brings us to the most radical and maybe the toughest part of this idea to wrap your head around, the role of the observer. Because in this model, an observer isn't just something that shows up billions of years later. No, an observer is an absolute prerequisite for reality to even exist in the first place. Which leads you to a really simple but kind of profound question, right? What does it actually mean for any event, a car crash, a star exploding, or even the Big Bang, to exist? What does it take for something to have genuinely happened? And here it is. This is the absolute core of the argument. Just let this one sink in for a minute. An unwitnessed, unregistered, unrendered bang is indistinguishable from no bang at all. Now, this isn't some kind of mysticism. It's a statement of pure, rigorous logic. If an event happens, but it leaves zero trace, no information, and is registered by absolutely nothing, then in what possible, meaningful way did it ever actually occur? So here's the crucial takeaway. We tend to think of awareness, or consciousness, as something that came way, way late to the party. Something that just kind of popped up in complex brains long after the universe was already set in stone. This model says, nope, you've got it backwards. Awareness, in its most basic form, is the universe's bootloader. It's the fundamental operating system that has to run first to get the whole show started. Once you make that fundamental shift in your thinking, something pretty amazing happens. The most basic building blocks of our reality, things like space, time, and energy, they suddenly get these elegant, brand new definitions. It's like we've been handed a whole new dictionary for the cosmos. Okay, let's take space. We usually think of it as just an empty box, right? A container that stuff exists inside of. But in this view, space is the canvas of difference. It's not a pre-existing box at all. It's something that emerges. As more information and more distinctions are witnessed into being, reality needs more room to hold them. And that room, that's what we call space. So what about time? Well, it's no longer this river that we're all helplessly floating down. Instead,
Time is the tempo of recognition. It is the pace of observation itself, the speed at which differences are witnessed and registered into existence. If nothing is being witnessed, time literally doesn't pass. All right, this one's a bit more abstract, I'll admit, but it's just as cool. Energy is described as recursion wearing a coat. The best way to think about it is as a description of the system observing itself. These self-referential loops, these self-witnessing cycles happening inside the fabric of reality, that's what we measure and perceive as energy.
So let's bring all this home with one final, very challenging question. The source material calls this the knife twist of the whole argument, because it really does force you to look at your most basic assumptions about what's real.
I mean, think about it. Pretty much all of modern physics is built on one single idea, that the initial conditions of the universe, that first moment, is the most sacred, fundamental thing there is. Everything else just follows from that.
But this new synthesis leaves us with this one profound final question. What is truly more necessary? The universe's first physical state, or the first act of witnessing that could bring any state into existence at all? Because if you think about it, without a witness, there might not be a there to begin with. And that is definitely something to chew on.